Hello, Willow Park Church Creekside. Thank you for coming to watch this sermon. At Willow Park Church, we are one church across 3 locations in the Okanagan Valley, and our goal for our church is for people to come to know Jesus. If you have questions about Creekside or even our church as a whole, I encourage you to go to willowparkchurch.com to find out more information about us or even to reach out. In the meantime, enjoy the sermon. Hopefully you feel empowered and enriched by it, and hopefully it draws you closer to Jesus.
We're back in Mark even today. And listen, there's been lots of good feedback. I hope that you've been enjoying the sermon series as we have gone through. For me, it feels like every time I'm opening up this book and into this chapter, it feels like I'm reading it for the first time. It feels really fresh. It feels really alive. It feels like it's hitting me in a different way than actually maybe any of the scriptures and series that I've read through has hit me so far. And I hope that you are seeing that and feeling that as you've gone through it too. Mark has been really, I think, beneficial for myself, but I think it's beneficial I know it's really beneficial for our church and what even maybe Christ is calling us to do within our congregation here and leaning more towards into Him. So we're in Mark chapter 3, verses 31 to 35. And so if you want to turn there, feel free, but it will pop up here on the screen as we get ready to look at this scripture. Oh, hello. We're going back. All right. I like to think that I am a family man. I love my kids. I love pouring into my kids. I love being with them. This week, even though Kim has been gone with Malachi and it's been spring break, I've just been enjoying being with my kids in the evening. Nothing's happening in the evenings, just being around them, having fun with them. I love to vacation with them. We make that a priority to take time to be with them, to get away and spend time with them, and even supporting their interests. Even so, sometimes their interests are very random, and we have some things and items sitting around our house that they've maybe tried once or twice, but they're really going to do it. Dad, I promise. If you get me this, I'm going to be the best kayaker ever. And so we have these 2 sit-on-top kayaks that are sitting in our shed now that we've maybe used twice in 5 or 6 years. And I'm even thinking about, should I just sell them now? And so, sorry, Zion, we'll see what's going to happen. And so, but I love my kids. I love being, having a family. Even this week, they're like, Zion was gone Friday night for a sleepover, and Evie and Jude were like, Dad, let's have a sleepover downstairs in the family room. I'm like, all right, sweet. And so we pull in Zion's mattress from his room, throw it on the floor, and then Evie's sitting on this, sleeping on this pull-out couch that turns into this twin bed, and I'm sitting on this floor sleeping with Jude. I'm like, what am I doing? And so I'm like 40. I'm going to feel this tomorrow. And so I end up being kicked and punched and everything, and so by Jude. But I loved it. Even though it's like I'm sleeping downstairs, not in my bed, and just with my kids, I love being with my family. Now, why do I tell you these stories? Why am I telling you how much I like being a father? And not to show you how cool I am. I mean, that should go without saying. But because we are going to be talking about this statement that we're going to see that Jesus is going to say that talks about family. And He's going to challenge us with what He's saying here. Now, this is one of Jesus' hardest statements that we will see Him say throughout Scripture. One of the hardest that we'll see Him say. And Jesus is challenging the structure of the day. And sometimes, family, it can be an idol within our own home and within our lives. And so, I said all that to get you ready for this, because I love my family. I love being with them. I love pouring into them. I love raising them. I love spending time with them. I love being with my wife. But Jesus is going to challenge the structure of this day, but also challenges our structure of today. Okay? And I want to navigate this with grace and care. And this is a sermon, right, that comes with a just challenging statement that might not sit well with some people, but it's going to challenge us, hopefully in a really good way. And this is what it says. Then Jesus' mother and brothers arrived. Standing outside, they sent someone in to call him. A crowd was sitting around him, and they told him, your mother and brothers are outside looking for you. Who are my mother and my brothers? He asked. Then he looked at those seated in a circle around him and said, here are my mother and my brothers. Whoever does God's will is my brother and my sister and my mother. My brother. No, and my mother. It's all the same. No, just kidding. It's not. Anyways, Jesus, he makes this scandalous claim. Let's paint this picture of what's happening here. Now, for us Westerners, this is crazy. This is a crazy statement, but not like it would have been for those who were hearing it in Jesus' time, right? I mean, in our world, it's not foreign for us to live apart from family. I mean, we have some South Africans, Brazilians, Aussies, New Zealanders, Hong Kongers. I'm not sure if that's how you say it. Hong Kongers, is that how you say it? Or no, they're just shaking their heads. Hong Kongese, and so I have no idea. And anyways, we've got people from all over the place. And in there, this message comes to you via an American. But in some cultures, even today, like Muslim or Iranian, family and heritage, they're absolutely everything. In Jesus' time, the family unit was absolutely everything. It was everything. The family bond was tight and it was long-lasting. As with many non-Western cultures today, it was normal for for children to live close to their parents, maybe even in the same house back in the day. The family unit would often do business unit as well, sharing everything in common. For Jews, the close family bond was part of the God-given fabric of thinking and living. Family was part of faith. Loyalty to the family was the local and specific outworking of loyalty to Israel as the people of God. And so if you're loyal to your family, it was like you're loyal to Israel and loyal to the people of God. You break the link, though, and you've undermined a major pillar in the way Jews in the first century think and feel about the world and how they feel about themselves. But as Mark has shown us, as we've gone through this book, Jesus was quite capable of challenging the symbols that lay of the heart of the Jewish sense of identity. Jesus is very good at, hey, this is what you feel is your identity. We're going to talk about this. Family solidarity, so that family unit was up there with Sabbath observance, which was very huge, the food laws, which was very huge too, and the other signs of the Jewish identity. So your family, your little unit, it was up there as your Jewish identity of being of this strong top pillar of faith, along with the Sabbath. It meant one was being loyal to their ancestral heritage and thereby to the God of Abraham, to Isaac, and Jacob. And so if you had a family and you were being loyal to and it was everything to you, it was like you were worshiping the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Everything. What Jesus is going to begin to tear down in this section, though, is the patriarchal, multi-generational household, the Biet as it's called, father's house, with the father as the head, encompassing multiple generations and potentially including servants and other dependents. He is going to be tearing down this patriarchal view of family. Now, this structure has caused division, not unity, with God's people. If we look through history, you look through the Old Testament, think about Israel. Think about how it's operated. And hasn't made those outside of the family structure or even Jewish heritage welcome. So Christ is now going to be inviting this new family structure where the father, and hear me out as I say this, where the father is no longer the head, but Jesus is going to be the head. Group solidarity has always been important to the Jews. It has always been important to the Jews. In Jesus' time, the family unit included all of one's relatives, who not only regarded one another as brothers, sisters, mothers, and fathers, but identified themselves so strongly with one another that whatever was done to one member of the family was to be seen to be done to it all of the family. And so if you said something nice to Kim, I would be like, thank you for being so kind to the Crow family name. You are forever indebted in our books of loyalty. We love you forever. You are amazing. Do say something mean to Kim, you are forever scorned from the Crow household, and all Crows in multiple generations will never accept you in, and therefore my kids, they will spit on your kids. And so this is what the type of family unit was being presented here. The shame of one affected all. You do harm to one, forever, you do it to the whole name, the whole crow name. So when Jesus' relatives hear people saying that Jesus has gone out of his mind, they hear, hey, he's gone out of his mind. They leave their homes in Nazareth and come to Capernaum to restrain him so that he does not bring shame then to the family. He doesn't want to bring shame to the family name. So if Jesus was crazy, the family was then crazy, and therefore brought shame to the whole family unit, not just Jesus. So in a time when people put limits on who belonged to who, right? It's very limited on who belonged to who. There was a need to change a structure, a family structure that wasn't welcoming at all. Jesus wants to show us something with this statement when he says, whoever does my will is my brother and my sister. Because he's not going to put limits on belonging. Instead, his embrace is prepared to take all who do God's will. And we need to ask God to help us even broaden our horizons, not to let us be limited by a narrow scope of what is comfortable. See, at this time, the man was meant to lead the family. And listen, the man is still meant to lead the family. Don't get me wrong. But meant to do it by inviting others into the family. Israel's sole purpose was to lead others to God, not to exclude others from the family. The structure of Israel and the family units became inward focus. That wasn't what Israel was meant to do. It was meant to lead people, to grow the family. But it said, this is our family unit, this is how it looks, and began to segregate. It would also kick out more people than would let in. So Israel had a history, and families had a history of pushing people to the outside. If they did so much for the family name, they weren't changing. They were pushed then to the outside. They tried to come to save Jesus, but Jesus kept doing the things that he was going to do. Maybe he's going to be on the outside. So Jesus comes not to abolish this structure, but to provide a leader of the home and how it's supposed to be modeled. And so there's this new family structure that's being presented. Here, this is some of the family, the Israel way, the family of Israel. Man was the head. Christ's family, Jesus as the head. And we've got all humanity, or we have blood related as the tribe. Like you're only in this tribe if you have blood. That shows that you are part of this tribe. All humanity, though, all tribes, inside focus versus outside focus, kicked people out versus accepted people in. Little value of women to actually a high value of women was being shown here. Jesus, he's toppling this patriarchal system that didn't work, that doesn't even work today. Yes, man is the lead, but now Christ is the leader of those homes. And Jesus shares that when people do his will, that they are his mother, brothers, and sister. And so he included women at the end of this statement. And that would have sent shockwaves throughout everybody who heard this. Men and women in the same breath. The patriarchal system is changing. So let's paint this picture. Jesus' family has already called him a madman. Some of his family, his outside family from, his mother and his brother, they've called him as madman. And it's gotten to his mother and his brother. They're worried about him, all that he is doing, all that he is saying. They're labeling him, trying to save him. As we talked about last week, they put a label on him to try to make him feel safe, to try to make him understand everything that he's going through. Because they don't believe he's doing well. And Jesus' mother and brothers aren't there yet. They are making the journey all the way down from Capernaum to rescue Jesus, to rescue him so he doesn't put shame to the name, so maybe he's not kicked out of the family unit. And they are taking time out of their day, their schedule, their resources, and their emotional capacity to go and rescue their son and brother. And so they arrive, right? Should be great relief. And they walk in and they hear Jesus say this. Actually, they send somebody in. They say, your mother and brothers are here. And then Jesus says, who are my mother and brothers? Here are my mother and my brothers. Whoever does God's will, they are my mother, brother, and sister. It's like, oh, he's just gone crazy. How hurt they must have felt. Like, did they just walk away? Like, did they boo him? Did Mary take off her shoe and be like, Jesus, you're about to get a swift little spank on the butt? And so, did they tell Jesus, hey, you better get your act together? Did the brother come in and don't talk about your mom like that, or our mom like that? Imagine the pain. Comparing a birthright of being a mother or a brother to some random group of people who choose to follow Jesus. So what is Jesus doing here? There are two groups. There's the family, and then there's the outside. And he's inviting them both into something that is beautiful. He's inviting them both into something that is awesome, that is a new family, he has created for it to look like. So what then did Jesus mean by this shocking answer? Well, first, listen, he did not mean he was severing family ties. Like in the final hours of his life, while he hung in agony on the cross, right? He thought of his mother during that time, and he made provision for her. In Luke 17, right, he said someone didn't do right by their kid. It was better to tie a 1-ton rock around their neck, be thrown into the sea, rather than face the judgment of God. And then, you know what? Jesus held parenthood in a high capacity, highest regard, cascaded those who failed to give honor to their parents. And in Paul, right, in 1 Timothy, he held parenting in a high regard. And it's even one of the qualities that it's even required, even as being a leader. And so listen, Jesus is not suggesting the breaking of family ties. Don't hear what I'm not saying. What he did mean that there is a deeper kinship than flesh and blood, a spiritual kinship that is characterized by obedience to the Father. There's this new family, this better family. What we tend to do with biblical truths in Scripture is we then tend to make them our identity and make them higher than our purpose. And so what we take then about parenthood, right, and we make it higher than the purpose of being a follower of Christ. Or servanthood, then we make it higher than being, the purpose of being a follower of Christ. And so what is meant to become a discipleship package, all these things together, becomes the whole package to this, just one idea. I will show how I follow Christ by simply being a parent, but then we overdo it. Jesus was saying there is a new family that is far superior to the human family, for it is eternal. And the beauty of this family is its ties are far stronger. It's far more satisfying, and it's actually far more demanding. Listen, we don't like demanding things, but if you've gone through demanding things, you know if it's demanding, there's actually a good reward on the other side. Jude, this one time, we bought pomegranates. And so if you've ever had a pomegranate, you've thought, what have I done with my life? Like, why did God create this fruit? Why does it feel like I need a map in order to get to the fruit? And why is this so hard? And so Jude and I, we break into a pomegranate, and Jude's like sweating. I think he's like, part of him's dying a little bit as he's like opening up this pomegranate. If you ever had pomegranates too, you like squeeze one and like shoots everywhere. And so Jude's got like juice across his face. It looks like blood splattered, and like I feel like he's been in a war. And then he finally gets them all out, and he sits down and eats the pomegranate. He's like, wow, that was worth it. And I was like, yeah, it was demanding. It cost him 3 of his fingers. And so but he did it and he loved it. This new family is worth it as we come into this family of Christ. For Jesus, those who are in his spiritual family are far dearer to him than his human family, with whom he lived for 30 years. He's saying this new family I'm creating, it is far better than my human family. I know this might feel a little tense, but I think we have to realize this in order to see Christ move in our community and our culture. What Jesus said here has a massive importance. Listen, again, please don't leave thinking Jeremy is like our culture. He is tearing down the family structure just like our world wants to. Listen, I'm not. Again, as I mentioned from the beginning, I love my dear family. Zion, do you love me? Do you think I love you? Yeah? Yeah, okay. First-hand word right there. And so he knows that I love him. And so, but in response to that, we will talk about this pendulum that we ride, right? I've talked about this pendulum before. When something swings one way, and it feels it's gone really one way, then we want to swing it back the other way to really correct it. We want to go just completely the other way. So the pendulum in our culture has swung one way for family dynamic, right? Right. Within the last decade, listen, with how we operate as people, we like to, again, swing it that total opposite way. We got to correct it now to combat things. Listen, I grew up in the 80s. When I grew up, there wasn't much of what our culture faced today in regards to family structure. That meant a lot of people were in my lives, pouring into me. My family felt bigger outside of my mom and dad. Now today, with all that we face in regards of the family being attacked, and it feels like everything is swinging one way. I get it. I understand. I'm totally there. We therefore swing the complete opposite way. We become helicopter parents, or the family's disconnected from society, and we separate our nuclear family from the family of God, which then affects how we are the church. And the church had a massive part of my life. People, again, pouring into me, people in my home, people correcting me when I was wrong in a nice way, and my parents not actually getting upset. And I think we need to swing back to a more balanced approach to family in our current age. Listen, if we are to get back to a deeper meaning of being the family of Christ, I believe it starts in our homes and how we view them. Yes, I think the family is under attack, but I don't think our response is always the correct one. There is, especially among Christians, another reason why the family is in trouble is because the family becomes its worship. In a valiant effort to stem the tide, many Christians and non-Christians alike have made the family everything. Every moment of every day, every involvement, every commitment, every engagement is measured and judged by the question, how will it benefit my family? Again, not a bad question to ask. But where's the question, Christ, what do you want to do? How do you want this to look? What should my family be doing? And listen, while this is generally commendable, it can degenerate into a familia narcissism and segregate your nuclear family from the family of God. It can become the four walls of the home become a temple, and only within and for those walls are then sacrifices made. And thus we commit domestic idolatry. And this is an immense tragedy. And the tragedy is this: every earthly loyalty, if it made central, becomes idolatries, and all idolatries eventually destroy their worshipers. Listen, again, I love my family. I will protect my family. I will look after my family. I will pour into my family. But I don't want to segregate my family from the family of God. Have our families become the center of our lives? Jesus, though, wants to be the center of our lives. I heard this description said, they had this dresser full of things, and each dresser, right, they pulled out, and one was, family. The second was job, and then the third was, let's say, gardening. I don't know. And so I'm just filling out the third one, whatever your favorite thing to do is. And so they were saying, well, you know what, family, there's a time when it becomes important. You got little kids, they take time, right? And so it feels like it becomes the first drawer, the most important drawer. And you're like, God, how are you going to fit into that? But the guy was saying, listen, Jesus wants to be the dresser. And then everything fits into what Christ does and says. We're not moving drawers up and down. It's Jesus is the dresser, and those drawers within our lives, they're part of Christ and what we do. And so, listen, here are some signs maybe that your family has become an idol to you. Unhealthy worry. Overspending on kids. Unhealthy expectation on togetherness. Prioritizing family over God. Fear of abandonment. You're worried when your kids are going to leave. What am I going to do? You go where they go. They lead. You seldom reach out to others, only your closest friends. Listen, this was an eye-opener for me this week as I navigated this myself. Because there's a bigger family. Listen, important family. What Christ is calling us to is to help those around us, calling us to a better family, which is his family, which is this family of Christ that everybody comes together in. Now, don't leave here thinking Jeremy hates families. Again, I don't, and neither does Jesus either. But the truth is this: many of the psychological problems in our families can be traced to parents whose affections bind rather than release and liberate. Multiple studies done. Trying to possess rather than let go a little bit. Avoiding the permissible destruction, right? That's ravaging our current culture and our society. Some parents perpetrate a possessive destruction, actually, which is equally devastating. And Jesus, he warned us about this too. Whoever loves family or who loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And whoever loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And listen, I know this is hard to hear, but what do I do to protect my family then? What do I do? What do we do to protect our families? What can we do to preserve and elevate our families? The answer begins with the family putting love and obedience to Christ above everything else. Above everything else. And what does this mean? Well, none of us can love our spouses as they ought to be loved. Only actually Christ can do that. I can't love Kim how she ought to be loved. Only Christ can. However, we love because he first loved us. Thus, we are able to love our spouses and others as we respond to his love. So most of us need to be better lovers, but being better lovers begin for the believer by first loving Christ, by first putting him the head, by first letting him lead, by first giving him the reins to everything in your life, and that includes your family. And the same is true for our children. Making them everything will not enable us to love them as we ought, or make it possible for them to love us as they ought. We must love and obey Christ first. Anything less is idolatry. Our children must also love and obey God. Anything less is idolatry for them. And Christ had to say those words to them at this time for them to know that he couldn't be their dear old brother or Mary's little boy anymore. He couldn't be that to them anymore. He had to become their Savior and their God and Lord, or they would be lost. And the Lord, he is testing them. Is your relationship to me natural or is it spiritual? Does it depend on the fact that the same womb gave birth to us and the same hands that nourish us? Or does it depend on the fact that you know who I am and worship and follow me? In these words, Christ is tearing down the whole old covenant family structure as the grounds for hope in God. He's like, that's not how you're going to have your hope in Christ. There is this new structure that I'm bringing that is beautiful and wonderful. And he's calling us to a new obedience, one that is deeper than family ties, one that doesn't depend on natural relationship, but on the spiritual relationship. Think about the picture here. Jesus' family is on the outside, actually, and Jesus is on the inside with people who are not his family. So Jesus is in this building with people who are not his family, who do not know him, who are only following because of the things that he's saying. And he's calling them his family now, while his actual parent and brother are on the outside looking in. A different structure he is calling to, a spiritual one. And as Jesus looked at this circle around him, these insiders, they no doubt felt loved and accepted. To hear Jesus call them my mother and my brothers must have filled them with great joy. The call to be a part of this family is to obedience to his will and obedience to him, and above all else, obey the Lord. And an unparalleled family experience awaits you, is what he's saying. Obey me, and an unparalleled family experience will await you. Listen, Again, not against the structure. And as we pour into our families, don't be like, well, I've loved you too much. Like Jeremy said, there's a capacity on that love, and I've reached it, after a sermon today. No, please love your family and love them well and serve them and be with them and spend time with them and pour into them. But recognize this, that there's a beautiful family of Christ, the ones that we have all around us right now, that is amazing. And this is actually eternal. This is eternal right here. And we sometimes, talk about how great this is, but we don't always show it because we become too singular focused. I believe this is what will change the world. A family structure, a Christian family structure, a family of Christ that shows and cares and shows up for one another, that will be the transformation that our world needs to see. When we make our wills His will, we experience a dynamic relationship with others who are living in submission to Him. 2,000 years ago, when Jesus gave this startling answer, He shocked His mother and brother and all who heard Him. So how about you? Do you have a growing sense of family with God? Is there a joyous sense of family with His servants? Are you loving being here today? Are you excited to see others around you? Is this like a great experience for you? Is your human family being elevated and perpetuated by the eternal sense of family, right? If we have this internal sense of family, I guarantee your family structure will blossom and look amazing, and your kids will follow Jesus for the rest of their lives. That's a big statement to make. This family of Christ that we come into cannot be minimized to bring comfort to our natural family. The family of Christ, family of believers, is what we are all inviting into. We're all invited into. There must be a family that works together, that loves each other. We must work together. We must love each other. This family unit is meant to be together, welcoming everyone, there for everyone, supporting one another. As a family of Christ, we do not do that. We therefore define the head of the house that way too. Then we're saying Jesus is that way when we don't do this. We are light bearers of His name. Jesus saying the church's family was not some kind of weak metaphor. He thought of His body, the church, as His actual family, and said that His commitment to His family was of the highest order imaginable. He said, I give my life for Him, for us, outsiders, and He did. And as we saw, He consistently pointed to a day when marriage and biological relations would be no more, and all that would remain would be the church. And we're not there yet, but the reality is we should shape how we interact with each other in the church right now. The church is family, and that means you should invest in it as family. Don't treat it like some kind of religious weekend pep talk. Well, I'm your motivational speaker. Listen, I'm not. And I'm not meant to be the head of this family. I'm just meant to lead in a capacity that shows that Christ is the head. And so I'm not your daddy. And so don't leave here being like, Jeremy, this is my papa now. And so that is not what it's meant to be. This family is led by Christ. If that's how you treat this church, then you're only experiencing a fraction of the blessing Jesus intended for the church to be. You say, well, what are you telling us to do? Well, I'm telling you this: invest in the family of God. Start something outside of your personal nuclear family that invites others in. Serve by leading a small group. Listen, my heart is for small groups. We need more small groups because that becomes little factions and little sections of family. And I would just say this: Daryl and Stan last week, they lead a small group and they have people within their small group, and then they knew that somebody within their small group hadn't been there for a bit, and they were like, we need to go see them and see how they're doing. That is family. Sorry about that. That is beautiful. Invite someone into your home that is outside of your comfort zone. Do it. That's family. If you want your kids to follow Christ, after they leave the home, you need to do this. This is what I saw. I saw a study that showed that the single greatest, the highest. The single greatest predictor of whether your kid will continue in the Lord after he goes to college, if he has 5 meaningful relationships in the church with other adults, not other kids, other adults who know their name and invest in them. John Venter, he's not here right now, I'm not sure, is he here? He was here earlier. He invested in Zion. He came to the house, he's like, I got this word for Zion. And he gave Zion this word, and he wrote it down for him. And he's investing in my son, meaningfully. Meaningfully. If your kids know 5 other adults in this space, they're gonna grow in their faith. Adults, that means you invest too. That means you invest. Treating the church like family means committing to the church as family. Sometimes there are differences in opinions in the church. I get it. We're not all the same. And so we all don't look the same. As I mentioned, we've come from very different cultures within our own midst here. All right, and then there's even political differences, or maybe ministry focus, or maybe even theology, different views here, maybe a different view on Revelation. But if we're family, you just can't say, well, you're not, you know what, my favorite relationship, so I'm out. We're not consumers, we're family. And that means bearing with people when they are not our favorite people sometimes. Let's not fall into the old patriarchal ways and kick out and move out. This is a new family. If we treat this family as Christ says it's going to be, man, we're going to transform Lake Country. I guarantee you. We're going to transform the kids that we're pouring into in our church. I guarantee it. We want to disciple our family. We must be a family then that opens the door to others. I think this, I'm just going to close with this. Josh, you can come on up. You can play even as I just close. Worship team. We forget about adoption. Not that, we've got people who've adopted kids within this church, but we forget that we are all part of that adoption. When we receive Christ by faith, we have a privilege of becoming his children. We are adopted into his family, right? John 1:12 says, but to all who did receive him, who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. And this refers to the status of all Christians, both men and women. The whole idea for this family, Jesus brought us all in. We're meant to bring people in too. That is what Jesus meant to do, even with our nuclear families, even with our family home, even with the Crow family. We're meant to bring people in. Because that's what Christ would do. Because he's the head of my home, not me. I want to lead this new family, not the old family, not the old patriarchal ways that we all can tend to fall into. Would you stand with me? This week, I went with my 3 kids. We watched Paddington in Peru. Kim has been leaving gifts every day for the kids and chocolates and stuff like that. And the one day she had movie tickets and ice cream and stuff like that. I know, she's an amazing wife and an amazing mom. So we went to watch Paddington in Peru. And I'm going to ruin the movie, my bad. But, this last one, he goes back to Peru and he's looking for this gold, right? This gold. And there's this map. Because his auntie is now lost and whatnot, and so he's gonna go find her, but she's looking for this gold. And so they get to the lost city of El Dorado, and he gets through. And what Paddington actually finds is not gold, but he actually finds his family, his blood family. Sorry, I'm so bad to ruin this movie for you guys, but it's so good. And so the Browns, who have looked after Paddington for however long, right, they're there crying, sad. They know he's probably going to go with his people, his blood. But then Paddington comes up to the Browns and he says, I know I found my people. Is it okay? And you feel like he's going to ask, can I stay with them? Did I come home with you? He's like, these bears are my tribe. They're my blood. But you are my family, people who are not his blood. Listen, church, that's what we need to be. Listen, we love our families. Of course, we love our nuclear families. We pour into them, we lead them, we direct them, we show them the way. But listen, what we're showing them is this family of believers that is even gathered here today, this is eternity. This is forever. Let's not let our own nuclear families become idols. Let's let Christ lead us into this beautiful family, and let us lead our nuclear families.